Is Justin Fields option A or option B? And also, there are officially no more vacancies on the Steelers coaching staff. Big Deke news. You got to hear it from the man himself. I'm talking Trevor Lawrence in response to those Steeler trade rumors that surfaced last week and what his take on the whole situation was.
It's funny though. When he sent it to me, I was like, I wouldn't say your heart drops, but you're kind of like, what? Like you think, and then I'm like thinking about well, I can't even I have a no trade clause in my contract, so I would know about it if I was getting traded or if that was something that was going to happen. I'd have to be on board with it. So, which I'm not. I'm happy here in Jacksonville. I plan on, we want to win a Super Bowl here, and I think we can do that. And I don't want to leave Jacksonville, so I'm happy here. Obviously. Not going to Pittsburgh.
So he said he'd rather be in Jacksonville than the Steelers. Have we really stooped that low as a franchise? I mean, this is a classic case of what else is he going to say here, but damn, it doesn't feel good hearing that you want to be in Jacksonville and you have a no trade clause. You don't really want to be in Pittsburgh. My guess is he would have waived that no trade clause if a deal actually did occur between the Jaguars and the Steelers. At least I hope. For just the sake of us seeing if we still got it like that. That this franchise still has an aura. Players still want to be here. That Steeler logo still means something. Because there is a case that the trade maybe wouldn't have been worth it anyway with Justin Fields chilling out there in free agency. And despite the report that we talked about last week that Rooney may prefer Russ over Fields, it looks like all the signs are pointing towards the Steelers having Fields as their first priority, and he's going to get the first opportunity to come back. But if Fields wants too much, apparently the Steelers aren't going to be hesitant to pivot in another direction. Mark Caboli went on 93.7 The Fan and said this: the Steelers will have a number, and if it pretty much exceeds that, they'll move on to Plan B. And I still think Russell Wilson's a solid Plan B. Caboli estimated a potential 2-year deal in the $25 to $30 million range for Fields. Says you might have to overpay a little bit early to prevent him from going and seeing him hit free agency. Now, to me, 2 years, $25 to $30 million isn't an overpay. That's just about right. That's between $12.5 to $15 million per year. Now, if Fields wants a little bit more, I don't think we should be too stubborn. I would have liked to have heard something different from Caboli there, that the Steelers would be a little bit flexible, and if Fields wanted 16, that, yeah, the Steelers would make it work. They'd make it happen somehow, some way. But on the flip side, I don't really think Fields is going to be pushing the envelope either here. Like, I think this is negotiation or this contract talk between Fields and the Steelers is going to come to some sort of happy medium where both sides walk away happy, because for Fields, the Steelers are the best opportunity for him, I think, to solidify himself as a mainstay quarterback in this league for a couple reasons. One, the familiarity. We heard Fields talk about how much he wants to come back to the Steelers, and part of the reason for that is because he's not going to have to learn a new playbook, which is something he hasn't necessarily been able to do whenever he was in Chicago. It's been new coordinators, new playbooks, basically every year. But then also the stability in the floor that the Steelers organization and Mike Tomlin provides. That's another thing that I think is beneficial for a Fields, a dude that has a ton of talent, ton of upside, but just knowing that you don't have to be Superman, at least not at the start. And we saw him this year in his first 6 games in a Steelers uniform go 4-2 by not messing it up for the most part. Now, he had his plays, he had his moments, but we weren't asking him to be Josh Allen, essentially. It was like, dude, don't turn the ball over. When we need you to make a play, step up, make a play. And that's essentially what Fields did, and we went 4-2. But I saw through those first 6 games that there's definitely way more that Fields can accomplish, and I think there's a much more higher ceiling, and we were only scratching the surface. So if that's the foundation, if that's the base, that's got to make it an attractive destination for you, because you know that things aren't going to be going off the rails. There's a certain structure in place. There's certain guardrails are up that you're going to be at least looking competent out there. You're going to be looking good. Now, is that going to be good enough ultimately? No, but again, there is a structure, there's a base, there's already a floor here that's been established. There's a familiarity here that could help you get to that next level with Arthur Smith being an offensive coordinator and a guy that believes in you. Whereas if you go to the Giants, the Raiders, or the Titans, you don't even know what that base is going to be. You don't even know what that floor is going to be necessarily. With here, you and the coordinator mesh. If you don't go to another place, which would be your third team in 5 years in this league, you won't have to learn a new playbook. And that's the other, 3 teams in 5 years. We could rip on the Steelers for the stability and the consistency in terms of getting to that next level, getting to that Super Bowl contention status and competing with these top teams in the AFC. But if you're looking at it from a Fields perspective, that consistency and stability is probably one of the things that he's really looking for and that we can provide. But it's also a win for the Steelers. So the Steelers is a win for Fields. Like it makes sense for Fields, but also Fields makes sense for the Steelers because he's got talent. He's got crazy upside that you're typically only able to get if you're drafting in like the top 10, which, Fields was. He was a top 11 pick. And we've been looking for a higher ceiling out of our quarterback play for a minute now. So Fields has that talent and upside that he maybe can be the franchise quarterback for us. He could be the future for us. And the Steelers provide stability and some consistency and some type of base structure for Fields that he's been looking for. I think it's a win-win. So let's just get this Fields deal done, get the cap space ready for free agency, and then let Con cook. Steelers are going to be back then. We'll be back. But let's transition to the coaching staff. We still got a lot of uncertainty out there with players and personnel and what the Steelers are going to do with this roster. But it looks like our coaching staff has been solidified. So we hired our inside linebackers coach recently, Scott McCurley.
Who?
So no Gerard Mayo, no Antonio Pierce, no Gus Bradley. But McCurley's a good hire. There's nothing wrong with him at all. He's got experience as a linebackers coach with the Cowboys from 2020 up to 2024. So 5 seasons with the Cowboys. He coached Michael Parsons, Leighton Vander Esch. He's coached some names. He was with McCarthy with the Packers going all the way back to 2006. Started off as like an intern, worked his way up. Quality control coach, defensive assistant, all that stuff. Became an assistant linebackers coach up with the Packers too. So he's got experience. He's got the connection to Pittsburgh too. Used to play at Pitt. Is from here. So there's all that. Nothing wrong with the hire at all. I have nothing bad to say about this hire. I have nothing bad to say about our defensive backs coaching hire either. Jared Alexander. Got a ton of experience. Was coaching the defensive backs in Miami back in 2020, and that's when Xavier Howard led the league in picks or something like that. Was an assistant defensive backs coach here for a couple years, 2022 to 2023. Last year went with the Raiders and coached the safeties. He also coached a bunch in college throughout the years and coached All-Americans, coached guys that ended up being draft picks in the league. Former player himself. So these, whether you're talking Scott McCurley, whether you're talking about Jared Alexander, these are good hires. I have no complaints. I have nothing bad to say about us hiring Scott McCurley or Jared Alexander for our linebackers coach and defensive backs coach, respectively. These are quality hires. My only complaint when it comes to the Steelers and the coaching staff is why aren't we going out of our way to make the coaching staff as good as we can? Whether it's maybe hiring more qualified guys for being the linebackers coach or the defensive backs coach, or, again, nothing wrong with hiring Scott McCurley or Jared Alexander. My only complaint is if hiring them held us back from hiring better guys, which I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but these guys are quality in and of their own right. It's just we could still do more. Nothing's stopping us from, even if we have Scott McCurley here as an inside linebackers coach, nothing's stopping us from hiring an Antonio Pierce or Gus Bradley as a defensive assistant. Nothing's stopping us from hiring a Mike Munchak or Mike McCarthy as an offensive advisor, offensive line help from a coaching standpoint. So that's my only complaint with the Steelers coaching staff. Nothing wrong with hiring these guys at all. No, I think these are good hires, flat out. Objectively, these are good hires right here. But could we do better? Could we do more from a coaching staff standpoint? And is it the end of the world either? No, not necessarily. But it's not going to hurt us, right? It's not going to hurt us to try to get to our ultimate goal and get back to being Super Bowl contenders. Hiring a Mike Munchak, a McCarthy, a Gus Bradley, or an Antonio Pierce, Rod Mayo. That's not going to hurt. I know that. It's definitely not going to hurt. But is it the be-all, end-all? No. It is whatever inside linebackers coach we get in here, the DBs coach getting is that the make or break thing that's going to get us from 10-7 to 12-5? No, there's larger issue. There's larger things to discuss when it comes to this team getting right. And we've been talking about them throughout the course of these last 2-3 weeks, the last month. Getting the quarterback right, coaching philosophy standpoint, getting the right players in here. What are we going to do in free agency? What are we going to do in the draft? Like, those are more pressing things to talk about, and I think are going to impact what we look like next year and going forward than the inside linebackers coach and the DBs coach. So that's it for today's show, though. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments of the topics discussed. Hope you enjoyed. Stay chilling. Peace.